Howdy, folks. Hope you're doing well. Happy Easter. Hope you got a lot of chocolate eggs and stuff like that. I've been talking with a contact on Twitter regarding Evans, and there's this thing about his registration, and there's this talk about what level he was registered at while he was giving his quote-unquote expert evidence to the police and offering his services, for what sounded like his kind of case. So there's that part of it. And then we found that he got back onto the register before the trial as a practicing physician, as a doctor. Excuse me. Sorry. What the contact, the person I've been speaking with has been telling me is just adding another layer to it, really, is that another reason he was able to get back onto the register, another reason that facilitated that without going through all the necessary processes, was that this is the time of the quote-unquote pandemic. I'm not going to go into anything about the pandemic, but it's just the fact that during that period of time, when it was all ramping up, organizations like the GMC, the NMC, and something called the HCPC, which stands for the Health and Care Professions Council, they opened up their books, as it were, to try to get previous professionals who had been practicing and perhaps had retired or had left or whatever to increase the numbers of people that could allegedly cope with the pandemic. And it was by virtue of that Evans was able to get back onto the register. Now, the process generally is called, apparently, and I'll leave a link below to this, a revalidation process. But there would be necessary checks and balances there that I think other people have mentioned in the past, the idea that you would have to get up to speed with current practices, you'd have to, there'd be some process there to show that you were, depending on how long you'd been away from the profession, as it were, how long you'd not been registered, that you're ready to go, as it were, and that might not be a simple matter. You might have to take refresher courses, extra training, depending on what the discipline is. But it's the idea that this revalidation process, which is usually quite, I don't know if intricate is the word, but there's a lot of checks and balances, a lot of things that have to be proven before you can re-register again. That's been allowed to slide, as it were, because of this quote-unquote pandemic going on, and the fact that they wanted as many people back on the register as they could get. And so that's had the implication of how he was able to acquire this revalidation, which I understand he has since rescinded, or he no longer is on the register to practice, I believe. I think there's different levels. You can be on a register but non-practicing, can't you? But he's no longer on the register to practice. My understanding is he's fully retired and has said he's also retired from doing any, as he called it, Letby work, I think was the phrase he used, that he's not going to be doing any more of that. He's already done enough damage, hasn't he? So, but yeah. So we're looking at him going through this process of revalidation, but it not being a valid or not a usual revalidation because of the times in question, because of this so-called pandemic going on. So what the ramifications of that are in terms of how he should have been viewed during his time of giving evidence in the trial. It's the idea he's been revalidated, he's gone back on the register prior to the trial, but because of this, when I was talking with my contact on Twitter, it's the idea. I put it in terms that he's kind of been, people were like fast tracked on it, whereas usually there'd be all these checks and balances and possible retraining and refresher courses, etc. But that he was allowed to, because of the wider circumstances, bypass that and then be seen to be someone who is registered, as it were, and like fully operational, as it were, while he's giving evidence in that trial. And as said as well, I think he's given that up since the trial, hasn't he? He's no longer registered to practice. I think that's all I wanted to say with that. Oh, I've just been given a bit more information here, just to run through the dates. And thank you very, very much to my contact. And I'm not saying any names, just to protect people's confidence. So from the 1st of June 2024, and I don't want to mention any names, but this is coming from another tweet, but it's also from the contact I'm talking to, but somebody else has tweeted this, but I'm just going to read through. Perhaps I won't mention any names and keep it simple completely. So we're going from the nearest time, but back in time. So from the 1st of 2024 to the present, he is registered without a license to practice. So that's subsequent to that trial. 1st of June 2024. Oh, well, I'm just trying to think how that ties in to the retrial. Was he part of the retrial? No, I don't think he wasn't. It was all about Jayaram, wasn't it? Perhaps he wasn't. So he didn't need to be. So that's convenient, So he's registered but hasn't got a license to practice. I'm just going to turn down the volume of my computer here. How do I do that? Anyway, sorry, just technical issues. It's all happening in real time. So we got from 1st of June, obviously after the main trial, to the present, registered without a license to practice. Oh, this isn't. Oh, right. Perhaps this is making me think twice about it again because of these dates. It's an interesting idea about the pandemic, but I'm not sure now. Because 16th of July 2019 to the 1st of June 2024, he's registered with a license to practice. Oh, I've got to start. I think I'll have to use the. Okay, from 2005 October to November 2009, he's registered. I don't know whether he's registered. Let me look at this picture. It just says it's registered. It doesn't say with or without. From 2009 to 26th of August 2015, he's registered with a license to practice. Right. From the 26th of August, this is Evans now. From the 26th of August 2015 to the 16th of July 2019, he is registered without a license to practice. So all through that, that takes him up to that second arrest period, doesn't it? The second arrest. In other words, he registers again with a license to practice from the dates of July 2019, and then he's registered with a license to practice all through the period of the trial, the final arrest and charge. So July 2019 to June 2024, he's registered with a license to practice. Then from that period to now, he's without a license. Yeah, the crucial thing when he was offering his services to Cheshire Police, that's my friend saying. I don't know whether we talked about this before. When he was doing his first report in 2017 and in 2018, all through that period of time, he hasn't got a license to practice. What the niceties are of that in terms of his legitimacy retrospectively to have done that, I don't know in terms of legal matters, but I don't. It's not a good look, is it, to put it that way, that he didn't have a license to practice all through the periods of him writing these reports, 2017 report, 2018 report, and whatever ones he did in 2019. But obviously it was thought, as they're building up towards the final arrest of Nurse Lucy Letby in 2020, so midway through 2019, he gets his license back to practice, which is obviously before the start of the so-called pandemic. So that kind of takes away the idea about it being the pandemic allowing him a fast track without going through the necessary revalidation checks and balances. So there's a bit of a mixture there. And there's a note here regarding COVID, quote unquote COVID. In 2020, the UK government asked us to grant temporary emergency registration and or licence to doctors who'd previously left the profession as part of the response to the coronavirus. Towards the end of 2023, the government confirmed that this form of registration would close in March 2024. Yeah, I think the issue here is that, as my correspondent's saying here, I'm just reading it as it's coming up. It's all in medias res. Him coming off the register fits with what the government said. He came off in 2024, which I suppose it could be suggestive of that he came on under the emergency measures. But if we've got the date here, he came on actually in July 2019, 16th of July 2019, which is prior to. That's prior, isn't it? Is that right? Yeah, it is. Of course it is, isn't it? When? Oh, let me stop a minute. Yeah, I thought I hadn't misremembered it. Yeah, it's the first time it's referred to as a pandemic is on the 11th of March 2020. So I'm having trouble now. Thinking that it was the pandemic that allowed him to get back on board, as it were, in a kind of a fast-tracked way without having all the checks and balances. I don't know whether to put this video up now. I mean, it's interesting about perhaps what I'll do at the end is put the picture of all those dates I mentioned. I'll put that at the end of the video, because that's interesting just to see that timeline for people. I don't know. I think him not having his license to practice is because he's not practicing anymore, and the trial's over, so he doesn't need it anymore. But I think the purpose of him getting the license to practice again in July 2019, I think it's because they know it's gonna head to court, and I think it's for the look of it, really, in the sense, but it begs the question, or it raises the question about the period in time that he's writing the reports. If it's important for him to be licensed to practice as a kind of way of showing his credibility as a witness in the court, why is his credibility not diminished by him not having a license to practice while he's actually doing the reports and working first for the Cheshire Police and then for the CPS. Well, by the time the charge happens, then he's working for the CPS. My understanding, he's paid by the CPS once Nurse Lucy Letby has been charged in 2020. But prior to that, he's working for. I mean, he's the bulk of his work's done, isn't it? I mean, he's doing all these other reports afterwards, perhaps, but his intrinsic, essential reports and his findings are during a period when he does not have a license to practice. See what I mean? Because it's kind of like, oh, I'll get a license to practice so that when we go to court, it look like I'm somebody who should be relied upon. This is one part of my bona fides. I've got my license to practice here. I'm not retired. I could practice if I wanted to, whatever. But when he's doing the reports, he hasn't got that license to practice. But he's got a license to talk he's been given a license to cause absolute havoc. I'm just seeing if there's any other messages. Yeah. I'm not sure about the pandemic aspect of it now, but it's an interesting thing to go through. Anyway, I think I'll leave it there. I'm assuming that's right. No, yeah, because he was given this license to practice again and went back onto the register. Not back onto the register. He was on the register, but he got his license to practice in July 2019, which is before the pandemic. Did I say? No, I mean, you know what I mean. Take care. I'll leave it there. Sorry if it's a bit all over the shop, but just something that's been discussed off and on over these last couple of years. His registration aspects for Evans. But there we are, and I'll put if I haven't put it over the video yet, I'll have to see and I'll just put that little image of the dates that I went through there as well. Take care. Have a good evening, and look after yourselves. It's all gonna work out in the end. It will. Bye bye.